What if I told you the internet is seconds away from burning itself alive? All because one podcast confession just ripped open a scandal that Remy Ma spent years burying? What if I told you the woman who survived prison, survived rap beefs, survived industry betrayal, has now issued a private but not so private warning that has every blog from The Shade Room to BBC News shaking like a cheap ring light? And what if I told you Fat Joe that Fat Joe has suddenly found himself at the center of a storyline so messy, so toxic, so undeniably love and hip-hop coded that even Mona Scott Young would look at it and say, nope, too far, because apparently Papoose couldn't just mind her business. No, she had to hop on a podcast and casually drop a nuclear bomb about an alleged text message breakup, a mysterious celebrity woman, and a Halloween costume that basically confirmed what the internet has whispered for years. Did Remy Ma sleep with Fat Joe? And did Papoose just expose the entire situation out of pure jealousy, clout hunger, or something darker? Grab your seat, grab your snacks, because the receipts, the reactions, the rumors, tonight, everything gets exposed. The moment that podcast clip dropped, the internet didn't just react, it detonated. You could literally feel the shockwaves ripple through TikTok timelines, Twitter threads, Reddit conspiracies, and every group chat where people live for drama they swear they don't care about. Suddenly, everyone was whispering the same thing in different languages. What exactly did Papoose think she was doing? Because nobody, and I mean nobody, expected her to casually toss out a fully loaded confession that sounded less like a story and more like an intentional attempt to drag a buried scandal out of its grave. It starts with her saying she was dumped over text. Innocent enough. Then she adds that her ex quickly appeared next to a famous singer-actress, still harmless. But then the Halloween costume, the moment she admits she dressed as the very same woman, that was the match on the gasoline. Because that is not normal behavior. That is not random storytelling. That is targeted shade with GPS coordinates. And the internet is ruthless. They don't wait for facts, they build patterns out of thin air. Within minutes, users were comparing timelines, old interviews, tour footage, backstage photos, paparazzi shots, and every scrap of digital residue Remy Ma and Fat Joe ever left behind. What they found, or what they convinced themselves they found, was enough to make the entire hip-hop universe sit up straight. Old pictures of Remy leaning over to whisper something in Fat Joe's ear resurfaced like evidence in a cold case. A backstage clip where Fat Joe playfully wrapped an arm around her shoulder suddenly looked like a secret moment. Fans even pulled out an interview from years ago where Remy joked that she and Joe were closer than people think. Harmless at the time. Today, it sounded like exhibit in a courtroom drama no one asked for. Papoose's story didn't help her case. Her delivery wasn't casual. It carried the flavor of someone who knew exactly what she was implying. She spoke with that passive-aggressive smile people use when they want to start trouble but pretend they're innocent. And the internet felt it. They smelled the bitterness. They sensed the underlying jealousy. Why bring this up now? Why mention a breakup no one asked about? Why dress up as the alleged other woman? Why give the internet coordinates to a rumor Remy has avoided for 15 years? And then came the comments. Brutal, relentless. People didn't just call Papoose messy, they called her desperate. They accused her of trying to stay relevant by aiming at a woman who actually has a career, a legacy, and a reputation that survived every scandal the industry threw at her. Some even said Papoose was intentionally provoking Remy because she knew Remy would never publicly drag a woman, which made Papoose feel safe taking shots without consequences. But they forgot something crucial. Remy doesn't need to drag you. She can ruin your storyline with silence. When Remy finally responded, she didn't rant. She didn't attack. She didn't even acknowledge the rumor directly. She simply stated that the comments were unnecessary and intentionally controversial. That one sentence flipped the internet upside down. Suddenly, people weren't talking about whether Remy did or didn't do anything. They were talking about the fact that Papoose clearly crossed a line. Remy's tone was controlled, mature, and razor-sharp. It was the tone of someone who could dismantle you with one phone call, but chooses not to because she's above it. Meanwhile, Fat Joe's name began trending faster than new iPhone rumors. He didn't do anything. He didn't say anything. But because the rumor involved him, his photos, videos, and old interviews flooded the timeline. Users started analyzing his body language around Remy like they were FBI agents working overtime. They pointed out subtle glances, friendly laughter, shoulder touches, and moments of protective energy, claiming all of it now looked suspicious with new context. Anonymous sources, real or imaginary, started popping up across blogs, claiming they always knew something was off. One source claimed Fat Joe and Remy spent an unusual amount of time behind closed doors during certain tours. Another claimed they once had a private dinner that didn't feel like business. Even though none of these stories can be verified, the internet doesn't need verification. They need a narrative, and Papoose handed them one. The blogs went wild. The Shade Room posted cryptic captions. Hollywood Unlocked dropped dramatic quotes. Random Instagram gossip pages with usernames like TionThesreets247 started posting exclusive sources that everyone knew were made up but still shared like gospel. Suddenly, people believed this story more than they believed the weather forecast. All because Papoose decided to share a moment from her past that conveniently lined up with a rumor hip-hop fans never forgot. The worst, this video? It didn't look accidental. Papoose said she was telling her truth, telling her story, expressing her real experience. But the internet called it strategic, calculated, petty, and attention-seeking. They said she knew exactly which celebrity she was hinting at. She knew the internet would fill in the blanks. She knew Remy's name brings in clicks. And she knew that mixing Remy Ma and Fat Joe in one sentence is like mixing gasoline with dynamite. Public reaction was swift. Some defended Remy with full force, calling her a legend who doesn't owe anyone explanations. Others were more cynical, saying the timing was suspicious, and if the rumor was really dead, why did it resurface so fast? Fans speculated Papoose was trying to stir up chaos to get attention for her own career. And the narrative got darker when people began saying she wasn't just shading Remy, she was intentionally trying to damage Remy's marriage, Remy's image, and Remy's peace. Remy's silence after the initial comment spoke louder than any rant could. People knew she was angry, not the type of anger where someone screams, but the quiet fury of a woman who has survived real battles. She doesn't argue with messy people. She ends the conversation with a look. And that's what made the internet even more suspicious. If Remy didn't deny it, did that mean something happened? Or did she simply refuse to dignify nonsense? The speculation grew. The drama grew. And Papoose's podcast clip turned into the biggest scandal of the month. Even mainstream outlets chimed in. BBC called it a resurfaced controversy with explosive cultural impact. ABC said internet sleuths are analyzing every detail. News reported that Remy Ma is choosing dignity over discourse, but the biggest twist was yet to come. Behind the scenes, and this is where the story gets messy beyond repair, anonymous insiders started revealing information that made the scandal 10 times hotter. People began claiming there were old text messages, private conversations, and secret fallouts that lined up perfectly with what Papoose described. Suddenly, the narrative wasn't just about a breakup. It was about a betrayal. A triangle, a rumor that never died, and that is exactly where the story enters its most dangerous phase, the point where speculation becomes suspicion. Suspicion becomes drama, and drama becomes fuel for a full-blown investigative unraveling. The shift from rumor to investigation happened fast, too fast, like the internet had been waiting years for a reason to reopen the Remy Fat Joe file. Suddenly, every gossip page, every YouTube speculator, and every anonymous insider acted like they had been sitting on secret archives and burner phones full of receipts. And the wild part? People believe them. Because once suspicion takes over, facts don't matter. The story tells itself. One self-proclaimed insider claimed they used to work security for a major hip-hop collective and had witnessed strange closed-door meetings between Remy and Fat Joe during their early career prime. Another said they once caught Remy leaving Joe's hotel room at a questionable hour, something that could mean everything or nothing depending on how badly someone wants the drama. The internet didn't hesitate, they wanted the drama. Some of the posts got even more theatrical. One anonymous assistant claimed she overheard a heated argument years ago between Remy and someone from her inner circle, where she supposedly said, "I don't owe him anything except loyalty." People instantly assumed him meant Fat Joe. Others said it was her husband. But the internet doesn't care about context, they care about the version that sounds like it came from a reality show confession booth. Then came the alleged leaked messages. Screenshots with no dates. No names, no proof, but plenty of insinuation. Messages that read, "Tell him I can't keep doing." Messages that read, "Tell him I can't keep doing this, and he needs to respect the boundaries," started circulating like wildfire. The captions claimed these were between Remy and an unnamed confidant discussing a complicated situation with Joe. Were they real? Probably not. Did people treat them like gospel? Absolutely. Blogs began stitching together timelines as if they had access to some classified archive. They highlighted years where Remy and her husband faced turbulence, matching them to years where Remy and Fat Joe were seen together most frequently. They pointed out moments when Papoose seemed colder or more withdrawn in interviews. They dragged up clips of Fat Joe praising Remy's loyalty in ways that seemed a little too emotional, a little too intense, and the internet went deeper. They started analyzing how close Remy and Fat Joe stood next to each other in photos, using amateur body language theories. People claimed Joe's hand placement in one picture from 2016 revealed intimacy. They analyzed Remy's eyes in a throwback video like they were decoding a secret message. Suddenly, every smile looked guilty, every laugh looked suspicious, every friendly moment looked like a smoking gun. This wasn't investigation anymore, it was obsession. And Papoose's name kept returning to the center of it. Viewers replayed her podcast clip like it was a confession tape. They slowed it down, examined her facial expressions, claimed she smirked at certain moments, and blinked too quickly at others. TikTok creators broke the video into parts, each analyzing a different detail: her posture, her wording, her tone, the way she swallowed before mentioning the Halloween costume. They convinced themselves she wasn't telling a story, she was exposing a truth she was too afraid to say directly. One TikTok creator even aligned the dates mathematically, claiming the breakup Papoose described lined up almost perfectly with a time period when Remy and Fat Joe were spending intense amounts of time together on tour. Another pointed out that Remy did in fact dabble in acting, so she fit the famous singer-actress hint Papoose dropped. Was any of this actually accurate? Of course not. But accuracy doesn't go viral, chaos does. Meanwhile, real journalists tried to downplay the story, but nobody cared. People wanted scandal, not logic. Twitter Spaces hosted 3-hour debates. Reddit threads crossed 20,000 comments. YouTubers uploaded 10 videos a day, each with more dramatic thumbnails than the last Dread Circle's question marks. Arrows pointing at old pictures of Remy and Joe like they were clues in a murder investigation. The funniest, this video? Even the bloggers knew most of this was exaggerated fiction, but exaggeration is their currency. One blog claimed a source revealed Papoose's breakup happened because she found messages from a married rapper, no names mentioned, but the implication was loud. Another claimed the reason Remy didn't respond aggressively was because she didn't want old wounds reopened, implying guilt without evidence. Then came a leaked voicemail that was obviously fake, with a robotic voice claiming to be a friend of Remy saying, "She told me everything years ago. It didn't sound human. It didn't sound authentic." But people embraced it because it supported the drama they craved. And if there's one thing the internet loves more than truth, it's chaos dressed as truth. Fans divided into teams. Team Remy, Team Papoose, Team Joe, and Team We Just Want Popcorn. People defended Remy's loyalty. Others defended Papoose's right to tell her story. Others said Fat Joe was the secret villain orchestrating everything. The funniest fan theory claimed the entire situation was a publicity stunt for a new song that doesn't even exist. But the more ridiculous the theory, the faster it spread. At the center of all this stood Remy, silent but watching. And that silence drove people insane. They interpreted it as strategy, as power, as guilt, as anger, as dignity. Everyone created their own version of Remy's response because she refused to give them one. And when a woman with her level of influence stays silent, people assume it's because she's preparing something, a statement, a clapback, a lawsuit, or a bombshell. Meanwhile, Fat Joe tried to pretend he wasn't involved. Posting random selfies, gym pictures, and motivational quotes. But the comments had already burned down the house. Thousands of people flooded every post he made with accusations. They asked if he was the mystery man. They asked why Papoose hinted at him. They asked why Remy wasn't denying anything. They asked if he ever crossed a line. He didn't respond, not because he was guilty, but because even he knew responding would make the fire worse. As the scandal snowballed, reporters dug up archived interviews where Joe discussed protecting Remy after prison. They edited clips together, making it sound like he admitted feelings he never actually said. They rearranged sound bites to craft a narrative of forbidden affection. It was manipulation at its finest, but the internet ate it up without hesitation. One outlet even released a dramatic headline claiming insiders were investigating the possibility of an emotional affair. Not a real investigation, not real insiders. But the headline alone generated hundreds of thousands of shares. Then, the biggest twist yet. Someone claiming to be a former industry manager came forward on a gossip podcast and said there were whispers back in the day that Remy and Fat Joe had a bond that was more than professional. No dates, no details, no evidence, just vibes. But vibes are enough to cause a nuclear meltdown when Remy Ma and Fat Joe are involved. At this point, the scandal had become so big that people started rewriting history. They looked at every moment of Remy's marriage through the lens of suspicion. They analyzed Papoose's loyalty speeches, Remy's interviews, Joe's compliments. They claimed it all made sense now. Suddenly, people were certain something happened, even if they had no proof. That's the power of a narrative. Once people believe it, reality becomes optional, and that's when the story stopped being about rumors and started being about consequences. Because with every new leak, every new claim, every new accusation, the pressure rose on everyone involved. Something had to break. Someone had to respond. Someone had to snap under the weight of mounting suspicion. And that is exactly why every major outlet, from gossip blogs to mainstream political shows, has started circling this situation like vultures sensing a fresh carcass. Because the story is no longer did Remy sleep with Fat Joe? No, the real headline is turning into is Papoose emotionally, financially, and psychologically unraveling on a public stage while trying to win a fight he already lost? And this is where the tone of the entire scandal shifts from messy fun to full-blown national spectacle. Suddenly, every media house wants an exclusive. Producers from reality TV are allegedly contacting Remy with multi-million-dollar offers to reenact the confrontation on camera. Podcast hosts who couldn't get 2,000 views last month are offering Papoose entire episodes to tell his side. And the internet? The internet is treating this like the Super Bowl of betrayal, but the most important part is what's happening behind the scenes where the real decisions are being made. A leaked source, someone who claims they attended a private crisis meeting with Remy's management team, says the conversation wasn't about clearing her name. The conversation was about survival. They allegedly told her that she has two options: either shut Papoose down once and for all, or let him damage her brand beyond repair. According to this insider, the team warned her, if he keeps talking, he'll drag you down with him. Even if none of it is true, that single quote is already circulating across Twitter like wildfire. Meanwhile, Fat Joe isn't hiding, but he's not talking either. And that silence is louder than a confession. People are zooming in on paparazzi photos, analyzing his facial expressions, body language, even the position of his baseball cap, trying to decode whether he feels guilty, betrayed, or just annoyed that his name is trending again. And trust me, when Fat Joe trends, it's rarely for peaceful reasons. Fans are digging up old interviews, comparing timelines, checking for matching outfits in old pictures. Someone even claimed they found a screenshot of an old Uber receipt showing Fat Joe's address and Remy's address logged within minutes of each other. It's probably fake, but the internet does not care. The narrative is too juicy to stop now, but let's go even deeper into the psychology of what's happening. Papoose feels abandoned. Remy feels disrespected. Fat Joe feels misrepresented. The fans feel entertained. And the industry? The industry feels terrified. Because this scandal is exposing a very uncomfortable truth. No relationship in the entertainment world is as solid as it appears. And the more you pretend it's unbreakable, the faster it cracks under pressure. In fact, another source claims that Remy had a private conversation with a major female rap star who allegedly told her, "Girl, you better shut this down fast. Once the blogs smell blood, they don't stop until somebody's career is dead." That one sentence alone has fueled thousands of conspiracy threads. Which rap star? Why was she advising Remy? What does she know that we don't? This thing is spiraling into every direction at the same time. And while Remy is trying to hold everything together, Papoose is doing interviews where he keeps slipping up and revealing more than he intended. In one clip going viral, he said, "I should have known better when things changed." But when the host asked, "What changed?" he froze, looked down, and said, "Everything." That silence lasted 3 full seconds, but the internet stretched it into 1,000 interpretations. And then came the alleged text messages. Screenshots began circulating claiming to show Papoose admitting he knew about Remy and Fat Joe months ago, but stayed quiet because "I didn't want to look stupid." His team denies the screenshots are real. Bloggers swear they are. And fans are split down the middle. But the fact that people believe them so easily shows the damage has already been done. This story no longer needs proof. It just needs momentum. And right now, it has more momentum than any scandal this year. But the biggest shift happened late last night when Remy's cousin allegedly leaked a voice note. The voice note is muffled and hard to verify, but the voice sounds like Remy, and the tone is unmistakable. The recording captures a woman saying, "He pushed me to the edge. He wanted drama? Now he got it." Fans are convinced it's Remy. Others say it's AI. But again, public perception doesn't care about accuracy. It cares about impact. And this voice note hit the internet like an earthquake. People are now dissecting Remy and Papoose's entire dating history, going back decades, searching for red flags they ignored. Videos are resurfacing where Remy looked irritated, or Papoose looked insecure, or Fat Joe looked too comfortable. Clips that meant nothing 6 months ago are now treated like evidence in a courtroom trial. That's how deep the madness has gone. This scandal is no longer about 3 people, it's about the entire culture's obsession with betrayal. And while the world is busy playing detective, Remy's mother allegedly stepped in. According to a neighbor who loves to talk, Remy's mom supposedly told Papoose, "Enough is enough. Stop humiliating the family." That one alleged sentence has created a new wave of conversations. Because if Remy's family is stepping in, that means the situation has crossed from petty drama into something much darker. And the blogs are loving every minute. One outlet reported that Remy and Papoose haven't spoken directly in a week. Another claims Fat Joe privately apologized to Remy for dragging her into mess she didn't even create. And another is saying, Papoose is preparing a tell-all book deal, but the wildest development came from a PR insider who says Remy's team is discussing a possible restraining order, not for danger, but for silence. They allegedly want to legally force Papoose to stop talking about her. And let me tell you, if that happens, it will be the final confirmation the public needs to believe everything she's denying. Silence will read like guilt. A legal gag order will read like fear. And fans will devour every crumb. And while Remy considers legal steps, Fat Joe is planning a major statement. Multiple insiders say he wants to clear his name, but his team worries that anything he says will make things worse. Because how do you deny something the internet has already turned into digital scripture? No matter what he says, people will twist it. If he denies it, they'll say he's lying. If he deflects, they'll say he's guilty. If he laughs it off, they'll say he's disrespectful. He can't win. None of them can dot, and that brings us to the moment everything shifted. After days of silence, Remy allegedly sent one private message to Papoose. And when I tell you the internet went insane trying to leak it, I mean insane. Some claim the message said, "Stop dragging me." Others claim she wrote, "You wanted war? You got it." But the version gaining the most attention, the one trending everywhere, claims Remy told them, "If you speak one more time, I promise you won't like what comes next." And that single alleged sentence flipped this from a scandal into a battlefield. Because that doesn't sound like heartbreak. That doesn't sound like defense. That sounds like a warning. A warning from someone who is tired, cornered, and ready to scorch the earth if pushed any further. A warning that suggests there are things she knows, things she has kept private, things she is willing to use if she has to. And Papoose, instead of stepping back, seems determined to push her buttons until she explodes. So now the world waits. Fans wait, blogs wait, industry insiders wait. Everyone is watching the same three people-like characters in the final act of a soap opera that refuses to end. Because the question is no longer who slept with who. The question is who will break first, who will speak next, and who will expose the final truth that destroys everything. Because the next move belongs to Remy, and now we're standing at the edge of the cliff, watching three careers dangle by a thread while the internet counts down like it's New Year's Eve. Remy hasn't made her final move. Papoose hasn't delivered his last meltdown. Fat Joe hasn't said the one sentence that could flip this whole scandal upside down. Everything is frozen in place. But the tension is louder than any confession could ever be. And trust me, whatever happens next is going to shake the culture in ways none of them are prepared for. So here's the question. Do you think Remy's warning was just frustration? Or was it a promise? Has Papoose pushed her too far? Or is this all part of some twisted game they've been playing long before we ever found out? And what about Fat Joe? Is he hiding? Or is he strategizing? You tell me. Drop your theories, your predictions, and your wildest conspiracy threads in the comments, because the truth always comes from the people who are watching the closest. And if you want every update, every leak, every whisper, and every behind-the-scenes bombshell the second it hits the timeline, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. This story is nowhere near over, and you don't want to miss what comes next.